We both migrated to Australia 15 years ago for the great Australian dream, and we wanted to make this country our home.
But still, we decided to leave for one main reason. We felt that this dream is dying. And in today's video, we're going to talk about 5 reasons why we think so. Watch till the very end because we will be providing an alternative to this lifestyle.
So without further delay, let's dive in. For those who don't know us, we are Nabil and Zanesta, a location-independent family who have been slow traveling for over a year with a toddler. Our simple goal is to create a freedom-based business. Australia has a serious housing crisis.
See, the Australian dream has always been synonymous to home ownership with land, a lawn, and the likes. And over time, you build your wealth on top of that.
But in the 1980s, the policies pivoted from housing as a human right to treating it as an investment asset. This eventually led to house prices skyrocketing, doubling from under $500,000 in 2011 to nearly $1 million in 2024, while average wages stagnated. House prices in major cities have quadrupled since 1971, far outpacing income growth. After many years of struggle, we were finally able to get a house about 50 kilometers away from the CBD.
This means you have to sacrifice in terms of, facilities, amenities, as well as travel times. The housing crisis in Australia has become a big political debate right now. We're not here to, engage in that debate, nor are we here to provide a solution. All we're basically saying is that this Australian dream, which was once connected to home ownership, is slowly slipping away, especially for young people who are becoming extremely disillusioned by their future.
Sydney and Melbourne is home to about 40% of the population here in Australia, and it is considered one of the most livable cities in the world, and yet it is one of the most unaffordable cities.
Australia has always been an expensive place to live, but unfortunately the cost of essentials such as your groceries, utilities, and even basic services have steadily increased over the years, with grocery costs rising 9% annually since 2022. Australia boasts one of the highest incomes in the world, but when you actually take away the cost of living and taxation, you are left with limited disposable income. Even those with average earnings are forced to sacrifice lifestyle choices to simply make ends meet, with many struggling to save or plan for the future.
There is no denying that worldwide the cost of living has increased. You're earning a lot, but are you having enough disposable income after everything considered?
If we are in 2024 trying to live a lifestyle but living based on income that were back in 2010 or 2011, you are basically just moving closer towards poverty. And this is just a reality. It is, unfortunate, and, we are really hopeful that in the future this will sort of be put under control by whoever is in power. Australia has always been touted as an amazing country to raise a family, and while that is still true in terms of safety and public spaces, it is becoming more and more difficult when it comes to the financial aspect.
I'll give you a quick example. Enrolling children in sports like basketball or soccer can cost several $100s a season, making it inaccessible for some families. Family outings like movie nights can cost up to $100, while similar activities in Southeast Asia are often under $20. In terms of education, while public schooling is accessible and almost free, it doesn't match the quality of the private schooling. Public schools often lack the resources that private schools offer, yet private schooling can cost about 20,000 Australian dollars per year in cities like Melbourne.
And the reality is the quality of your public school really depends on the area that you live in. So it really comes back to then you being able to afford the rent or the mortgages in good areas, and therefore making it inaccessible to education as well to a lot of families. So it's like a vicious cycle and is sort of interconnected with one another. While Australia has, an extensive public transport network, the vast geography just makes it almost impossible to cover the entire area. Therefore, people have to end up owning a car, and with car comes a lot of maintenance costs, including registration, tolls, fuels, depreciation, etc.
Traveling within Australia is very expensive. A daily commute on Sydney's Opal card can cost about $40 per week, adding up over time. Now, there is also a high car ownership cost. cost, and with fuel alone averages about $2 per liter across cities.
The further away you go from the central business district, the less the quality of transport infrastructure becomes. So you have to end up, sort of spending a lot more time on the roads, which basically has an opportunity cost, right? Because you could have spending quality time with your family, or, even putting that time on doing something on the side, like a side hustle. So that sort of time is taken away from you while being on the road.
And also, to give you a perspective, when we were in Sydney, our jobs were in the CBD area, and so we had to commute one way 1.5 hours. So that's like 3 hours every day we are on the road. And obviously the offices wants you to go back. It's not work from home anymore. And it just didn't make sense to us. Like, why are we doing this when obviously we could do the work sitting at home?
One of the great parts about living in Australia is its healthcare, because it is almost free, or it used to be. But now with the Medicare levy increasing over time, as well as you having to cover gap payments, on top of that, the government sort of almost penalizes you for not having private health insurance to cover for anything that they do not cover. It all adds up.
And let's not forget about the lengthy wait times. Non-urgent procedures can have months-long wait times, forcing people to either wait or pay more for private care. And also there is the high private insurance cost. Many turn to private insurance, but premiums have increased by over 3% annually, putting a strain on household budget.
So with these realities that we face today in Australia, it is evident that, the way things are, it's not working for a whole bunch of people, especially younger people. So instead of trying to revive a dream that has worked for generations before us, how about we dream a new dream?
So here's the template of life. You do your education, you get a good job, you get married, you buy your car, you buy your house, you excel in your career, you start a family, and then you do more of that. Another house, maybe for an investment property, get a better job, and then you keep on doing that until maybe you're 50 or 60 and you think of retiring. Now, we have done everything to the book. Obviously, we're not 60 years old, we're in our late 30s, but when we pictured ourselves in the next 10 years, how we want our life to be, we obviously didn't want that at all. With the changes in the environment of, jobs not being there anymore, and the cost of living increasing rapidly, and
introduction of AI.
Yes. It just made us think, like, do we want to live that life for the next 10 years, or is there something else?
That's when we realized that we've got to rewire our entire thinking. And that's when we imagined a life of location independent that would eventually allow us to focus all our efforts and energy not in a job, instead on creating a freedom-based business. And while Australia has played a role in terms of us generating our income in its strong currency, we felt that spending that money in a country with a weaker currency allows us a better runway, which is basically what is currency hacking. And that's exactly what we did for the last 1 year living in Southeast Asia across 4 to 5 different countries. Let us tell you, all these points that we talked about today, a lot of them can be addressed simply by making the move.
Let's talk about accommodation. Now, we've been living in all over Southeast Asia in different cities, and we've been paying about not more than 1,000 to 900 Australian dollars per month in terms of accommodation.
Our cost of living pretty much has gone down by 1/3. So we've basically been spending around 30 to 40% of what we used to be spending in Australia. And this is the crazy part, without actually having to, sacrifice on much in terms of quality of life.
And last week we did a video on the total cost of, traveling 1 year full time. We'll link a video up here so you can go and have a look. This is a real cost because we have meticulously documented all our expenses, so you can get an idea of how much it might cost.
In terms of our child, like, we've been sending her to international private preschools, and they've not only provided a very high quality of education, but way more affordable than even daycares in Australia. And what can we say about public transportation? Like, boy, we were so wrong. We used to think that Southeast Asia is so backward when it comes to, public transportation, because we were sort of in a bubble in Australia. We sort of feel like, oh, it's the best. But, there are a whole bunch of other countries out there. When you actually go there, you will be surprised at how much options you have, whether it's public transport, whether it's ride-sharing applications, the technology is just amazing and the user experience is just far superior. And the last thing, while we can definitely argue that healthcare qualities are definitely nowhere near where Australia is, the thing is that in terms of accessing private healthcare, which is of actually pretty good quality, you don't really have to spend an arm and a leg for that. We had private insurance, yet out of all the time, say our daughter got sick or we got sick, it didn't even meet the threshold for us to sort of, get some returns back from our private insurance.
And by the way, places like Kuala Lumpur and Bangkok, they're considered a destination for medical health. So you would be surprised the quality of medical support you would get in these kind of cities. Now, there is a caveat to us saying all of this. This is only possible if you take the advantage of currency hacking, which is you earn in a higher currency and then you spend in a lower currency.
We've lived in Australia for over 15 years and we wanted to make it our forever home. Like, we are citizens of that country and we'll always have a special place in our hearts. It's just unfortunate that the situation has become such that we find ourselves in a position where we have to be sort of creative on trying to come up with ideas as to how we can progress. But, I genuinely hope that, in the future, the people who are in power will continue to look at some of these things that are happening and create some changes.
So wait for the next video coming up in Thursday, where we're going to talk about the cost of living in Australia versus cost of living in Southeast Asia. This is going to be an interesting one because we have personal data to back up this whole video, and we can't wait to see you in next Thursday.
But in the meantime, go and watch this other video we did around why we left Australia after 15 years, which is a lot more personal to us, and some of the reasons there you can probably relate to. Hope you like this video. Please do subscribe to our channel and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye-bye.